You're listening to Boobies and Newbies, brought to you by the Frolic Podcast Network. Happy holidays, everybody, and welcome to a special holiday edition of Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today's romance review marks the 8th episode in Boobies and Newbies' annual special, The 12 Days of Boobsmas. With only a few more Boobsmas episodes to go and about a week until Christmas, I, for one, am very excited both to celebrate with my friends and family and also to just take a much-deserved break. Boobies and Newbies will return in late January, and the best way to know what we're reading, reviewing, who we're interviewing is to join us on Patreon, where you will always be the first to know about what's happening next. You can always go back and check out the previous 7 days of Boobsmas episodes and beyond on our website, boobiesandnewbies.com, or your favorite podcast app. Joining me today for the 8th day of Boobsmas fun is one of my favorite romance readers, podcasters, and in general, dope human beings. You know her as the host of Too Stupid to Live. I know her as perhaps my most popular Boobies and Newbies guest. It's the lovely Becky Feldman.
Oh my goodness, wait, I'm the most popular? Shut up now, you.
I mean, I guess it depends how you define popular, because in terms of guests who have made the most appearances on Boobies and Newbies,
for sure I'm the most popular.
You win hands.
Yeah.
In terms of most popular in my heart,
Oh, good.
abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah, no, that is just like, and that to me is like, I force myself to be popular because I'm just like, can I be on your show again?
You are always welcome on this show. And as it turns out, and I will say, you know, as much as I'd love to take credit for planning this, I will admit this was by no means part of the plan. Becky is actually here on the same day of Boobsmas that she joined me for last year.
Lucky number 8.
So, lucky number 8.
And I feel like I'm going to be lucky number 8 for as long as you do Boobsmas, hence me being most popular.
You're my 8 date.
I'm lucky number 8. I'm your 8 date. Yeah.
Well, what is new in the wonderful world of Too Stupid to Live? Because if people haven't listened to Becky's podcast yet, first of all, you're sorely missing out. And secondly, Becky's podcast is actually the romance podcast I listen to the most when launching Boobies and Newbies. It was really the one. I know everybody has their romance podcast they love, and I will absolutely, acknowledge the fact that there are so many amazing ones out there for various different reasons. They all do their own individual things. I love me some smart bitches. There's Heaving Bosoms, Wicked Wallflower, Smart Women Read Romance, launched around the same time Boobies and Newbies did. Jeff and Will's Big Gay Fiction podcast. I mean, there are so many different ones that cater to so many different facets of romance, but Too Stupid to Live will always have a special place in my heart. Oh my God,
that's so sweet. And I'm like, yeah, that's very, very sweet.
Very true.
Very true. I don't even have anything. Anyway, I don't even have any quips. That's just very sweet.
That's good. Just take the praise and tell everybody about your podcast.
Yeah. So Too Stupid to Live is a podcast that reviews romance novels, $5 and under. I don't have usual guests. I have all sorts of guests who bring either their introspective or funny perspective to the show. I also do author interviews. Sometimes I review movies. Like, listen, it's kind of like an anything goes wild romp of chaos. So enjoy.
I like chaos. I mean, there's a reason I love your podcast.
It's just pure chaotic of like, this is either going well or it's going off the rails. But either way, it's super fun.
Well, I'm curious because I know as an avid romance reader yourself, you've reviewed several holiday romance reads for Too Stupid to Live, and whether it's one of those or another, romance, holiday romance read separate of those, do you have a favorite that sticks out in your
I
mind?
mean, the thing is that like, I always talk about Jewish holiday romances, like, and it's so funny to me because I grew up Jewish, and I obviously have like my own perspective of like growing up Reform Jewish, and also I am now an atheist. So I have my own kind of rose colored glasses looking into this. But like the way that Jewish romances are written make me laugh because it's basically a find and replace of Christmas for Hanukkah or for Christmas and
Yes.
Passover, and like, or
Hmm.
whatever holiday people are doing now, and it's the most unrealistic depiction of like, if particularly if you are a single person with no kids, it's the most unrealistic depiction of Hanukkah ever. And like, you know um and it's just like, and I love having someone with kind of my similar background on the show, just being like, just unpacking why this is so not accurate, but like, also, we're also happy that these books exist, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
even though there's like an inaccuracy to it, because maybe there's some people out there who are like, no, this is Hanukkah, this is Passover, whatever. But
I mean, please let us know if you are like celebrating Hanukkah 8 crazy
but
nights
like,
style, like
yeah.
going all out. You have parties every night.
Mhm.
You are cooking all the goodies. My favorite is that there's always somebody who explains the like story of Hanukkah for the
Yeah.
readers, like, very clearly, like, oh, here's the one non-Jewish person in this book. Let me educate you on the history of
But
Hanukkah.
like, here's the thing about it is that like, it's basically like, I applaud the writer for going into what Hanukkah's about, because like, the last time I learned about the story of Hanukkah, it was very sugar coated when I was like 10 in Sunday school or whatever. And so they go into like the full history. And I've learned more about the history of Hanukkah from like a romance
From
novel
reading.
than like my a gazillion years of going to like Hebrew school or something. And like, it's very funny and informative. And yeah. I think what's so funny about these books is that like, especially if you're a single person with no kids, um like, you're like, I have to get my menorah, and I have to light the candles every night, and the menorah is the most important thing. And it's like, I think I can say with true certainty that if you are a single person with no kids, you're not making latkes by yourself. You're not lighting the candles on the menorah by yourself. And if you are, like, that's
I'm sure
amazing.
there's
I'm
some.
sure
Yeah,
there's
I'm sure there are
some.
some people doing it. That's wonderful. It's like the same way that there's probably some people baking a ridiculous amount of gingerbread
Mhm.
cookies to bring to all of their neighbors. But you know what? Some of us live in apartment buildings and we don't know our neighbors, and we don't have menorahs
Mhm.
like out on the first day of Hanukkah, like, or our Christmas tree up on the first day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's like, it's funny because like in these books, like, it's like everyone's Jewish, and like, yeah,
yeah.
obviously Jewish people have Jewish friends, but it's like, I'm reading this one book right now that I'm going to review for the show that's like adorable, but it's like everyone in her apartment building just happens to be Jewish, and like,
Oh.
it's like, it's not like that, like, we are a minority, and like, it's kind of surprising where it's like, oh, you celebrate Hanukkah, like, there are bigger chances that me as a person being raised Jewish of making gingerbread cookies to give to my neighbors. Not that I would, because I'm such a fucking Scrooge, but like, I'd be handing out candy canes, not like, hey, I made some latkes. Like, it's not like that. Like, and it's also
Right.
like adds to this weird idea that like Jewish people are secluded together, in one apartment building, and like
Yeah.
that's
Well, and
100% not true.
I get where it's coming from. Like, I get the idea that we're so used to reading stories specifically about Christmas and watching Christmas movies where they're like, well, what if we did this but with Judaism
Mhm.
and with Hanukkah? And so like the idea. I like just to get it out there to say like, look, I wrote a Hanukkah romance, or I made a Hanukkah holiday film.
Mhm.
However, it's kind of how I feel too about like there being so many like kind of the way people describe Lifetime movies now is sort of like, oh, well, it's the Black Christmas movie,
Yeah,
like on
yeah.
Lifetime. And
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I understand having Black Christmas. I understand having Christmas that's just, I guess what do you call it? White Christmas? I mean,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like it's weird because it's like I'm like, this is not what my world looks like and what my life looks like. Like my friend group, my family group, we are a very odd bag of mixed cookies.
Mhm.
Like, we've got all colors of the
And
rainbow. We
everyone's is,
in
yeah.
multiple
Mhm.
rainbows. And so it's just weird to me to not see that reflected, especially I feel like romance, we talk about this all the time, that romance novels have become very progressive, like much more so than movies and television today. And for that, I am very
Sure.
thankful. However, I don't know why the buck stops with holiday books. Like for some reason, there's still this holdup that holiday romance is like specifically white and it is specifically
Yeah.
Christmas, and that is it. And so anything that goes against that is diverse and different and refreshing when God, can't we just let people fucking have their holiday party?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and celebrate whatever they want with people who may or may not celebrate the same things?
Yeah. Like, if you wanted to, like, write a full-on, more realistic book about Hanukkah,
Oh, yeah, let's have it.
just write a regular romance novel. Just write a regular romance novel, and the final sentence of the book is, "Oh yeah, it was Hanukkah this whole time." Like, that's like, to be honest, like, that's, like like, what it is.
Well, and so funny that we're recording this. I want to say this episode doesn't come out until closer to like mid-December. However, as we're recording, we are
It is
still in the midst
Hanukkah.
of
Yeah,
Hanukkah.
yeah.
So, can I ask how you're celebrating? If you are
Yeah,
celebrating.
well, like, living alone with no kids, I'm not doing anything at all, but I do have a new niece that I talk about all the time with you and show you pictures, and
Yes.
so because of that, my brother and his wife are, like, they wanna it's different when you have young kids, you know what I mean? Like, you do
You get to
celebrate.
create your own traditions and
Exactly,
your
yeah.
own ways to celebrate, which honestly is so funny. Like I feel like in my brain I see myself having like specific traditions around Christmas, and in my mind I'm like, "Oh, this will be when I have a partner. This will be when I'm married and like I
Exactly.
have a place
Yeah.
of our own
Mhm.
and we can create our own traditions and I can force other people to partake in them because I'm going to be that
Yeah,
person."
exactly. And it's like, if I had a kid, yeah, I'd be, lighting the candles and playing dreidel and all that stuff. But my point is that, like, I did, go over and celebrate with them because, that would be shitty to be like, let's not invite Aunt Becky. You know what I mean? Like, that would be terrible. They would be
Oh
assholes.
my God, you're Aunt
I
Becky. I
know.
just realized you are Aunt
I'm
Becky.
Aunt Becky. I go by Auntie Becky. Well, I want to
Okay.
go by Auntie Becky, but
Yeah, get rid of that full house stigma right there. Nip it in the
yeah,
bud.
yeah, it is kind of tragic that it happened the same time I was
Yep.
learning I was an aunt. But yeah, so like that's maybe the most tradition. If I'm with my parents, like
Yeah.
like when it happens to be around Thanksgiving, which is like once every a gazillion years, like yeah, we'll light the candles, which is actually so weird because like
Mm,
we do it like we're kids, like my parents will like get out their menorah and then we'll be like, okay, everyone,
yeah.
Baruch. And it's like, we're all in our late 30s. Like, why are, or like, at least me and my brother are like, why are we why are we celebrating like we're 8? You know what I mean?
There is this weird thing about when you are home, whether it's with, your immediate family, your extended family, but especially when you're home with your family during the holidays. And and I mean if you're in like a home that's maybe one that you grew up in,
Exactly. Yeah.
where it's like time stands still.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Because I know that, like, my mom was visiting my grandma the other day because we lost my grandfather earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is going to be the first Christmas we have without Papa.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was over at my Mimi's house helping her decorate her house for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And Mimi had a very specific way she wanted the house decorated. She knew where every single item was supposed to go. Like, dancing Santa over here. These picture frames get taken down. These pictures get put up on this table in this order. And there's something about it that I think because of the way we almost structure the holidays, I can understand why it takes the joy and the magic out of it, especially the older you get. And like, we've done this for 30 years. Do we have to continue doing it this one specific way?
I mean, it just, for me, it just makes me laugh. Like, it's just like, oh, this is funny. And, you know,
we're going to do this
and
again.
honestly, like, I'm excited for this new tradition, like, with my niece. Hopefully I'll be invited again.
I am too. I'm excited
year,
for you.
But
for you, Auntie Becky.
We'll see, because Auntie Becky, she gets nuts when whiskey and latkes are involved.
There's a tradition I can get on board with.
Yeah. I mean, I know it should be Manischewitz wine, but I'm a whiskey gal, you know? Yeah.
It's fine. That is perfectly fine. Honestly, I've figured out that the beauty of why I love a hot chocolate during the holiday season is you can add just about any kind of alcohol to hot chocolate and it still tastes good.
Do you want to hear something crazy? You can do that any time of year, too. Like, the alcohol is there, but it's like, I totally get, like, and it's like, you can make eggnog any time of year, like mulled wine any time of year, but it's like, oh, it's always this time of year where it's like, let's get fucked up.
Yeah, in the same way that we're very forgiving of things around the holidays, even in books and movies where we're like, oh, that's fucked up, but it's Christmas, the same thing applies to sort of like just these traditions where we're like, well, we can only do this and it's only acceptable by whose standards, I have no idea,
Santa.
During the holiday season. So I'm with you, though. I would love to see, I want to see like bad Hanukkah. Like, I want to read a Hanukkah story that's just like, maybe I don't even call it a Hanukkah story. I mean, just, I want to read a story where it happens to be Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Can it just be about like how they're like a bad Jew? Like something where it's like, I'm just bad.
Bad Jew. Yeah,
I'm a bad Jew. I'm not good at celebrating. Like, you know, because I have a lot of friends who identify as bad Jews that would very much like that.
Yeah. It's funny because it's just like, I don't even see it as bad Jew. I see it as like a realistic Jew and
a real human.
In 2021. Again, it's like a generation, like it's very specific because, like, again, like if you have kids, you celebrate or whatever. Like, but like for people, like even adults on their own, like it's like, oh yeah, it's Hanukkah. Like the episode I'm doing,
I'm with you.
My Hanukkah episode is gonna come out after Hanukkah, but it's just like. And oh fuck yeah, it was Hanukkah. You know what I mean? Like,
what's the book? Tell everybody because I'm sure by the time this episode is out,
I think you reviewed it. 8 Cozy Nights. Oh, you reviewed that,
yes, by Julia Wolf, and who, by the way, I it was so funny. We did a Julia Wolf romance a few months ago. She wrote one of our rock star romance picks, and I loved it so much, and I loved her writing style, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I know this author. And then I realized she had also written 8 Cozy Nights, which was the first Hanukkah romance I ever read, and it was the first one we reviewed for the 12 Days of Boobsmas.
Right, yeah.
So, I really love her writing in general, and I do remember enjoying that book because I think isn't one of them like a tattoo artist or
a barber,
a hairstylist, a barber.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's just
I knew it was something cool.
The thing is that I just started it, so I mean I know how. I fucking know how it ends. I'm not an idiot, but like, again, unrealistic. But I feel the coziness of it, and I mean I'll talk about it more on my show because I don't want to sidetrack.
Yeah.
But like,
save it. Save it for Too Stupid
but
to
it's
Live.
like I do like it, even though it's the most unrealistic.
Well, and I want to say we had a very similar conversation because anytime that I review a Hanukkah romance, I absolutely invite one of my friends who grew up Jewish to join in on the episode because I want to have their take.
Right.
And because their take is going to be a lot more accurate than my take is. And so I think that's one of the ones we did with my friend Jason, who, by the way, brilliant musician, Jason Burke. I'm going to publicize the fact that he has like an album or two out, and he has a song in a new holiday movie on Netflix, which I was like, what? I think it's called like Work Hard or Love Hard or something like that. Some sort of catfishing for the holidays story. Again, fucked up, but because it's Christmas, it's okay.
It works.
So yeah, so if you want to get more 8 Cozy Nights, you can check out our review from a couple years ago.
It's a good episode. I do love that episode, and
well, I'm excited for yours because your Hanukkah episode last year was fire because it was the one with the motorcycle dude in like Atlanta celebrating Hanukkah.
The motorcycle riding hot guy who knows the story of Hanukkah detail for detail.
Yep. Detailed explanations. Ooh, that gets me hot. Well, I've decided 2022 is the year that I'm going to write a holiday romance because I don't know why, but I feel like every idea that I have for a romance novel or novella either involves a wedding or Christmas.
Right. You should
so
do it. Do it, dude.
I think I'm going to.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be my goal for 2022 is to actually write and finish and publicize and publish a holiday, even if it's just a novella. That is fine. Honestly, I think holiday novellas do a lot better than holiday novels.
I agree.
Just in terms of the fact that there's so much going on at this time of year. I need a bite-sized read.
Yeah.
And honestly, today's read is probably about as long as I'm looking for in a holiday romance.
It was a really good length, I think. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about
we should do it.
This bad boy, because I will tell everybody, and I shared this with Patreon supporters last month as I was doing a reveal for each of the books that we would be talking about during the 12 Days of Boobsmas, but I had originally selected a different book for this specific day and read it, thought it was okay, but I wasn't really excited to talk about it. And so when I published some sort of social media post about holiday romances, somebody recommended Claimed by the Alien Bodyguard. And here I am thinking, I'm so confused. Like, what can this possibly have to do with Christmas, let alone the holidays, the winter season? The title is Claimed by the Alien Bodyguard.
Right, yeah.
Nothing about that
It's Christmas.
screams holidays, And so if you look at the cover of the book, there are some snowflakes behind the red tinted alien man with horns and a tail, but they're subtle. So again, title, cover, not very Christmassy. But I was assured that there were a lot of Christmas vibes within, and boy, am I glad that I did make the switch, because today we will be talking about Claimed by the Alien Bodyguard by Tiffany Roberts. This contemporary single mom and neighbor next door romance was published in December 2020. It's available on Amazon for free with Kindle Unlimited. And it's new to me. Tiffany Roberts is the pseudonym for Tiffany and Robert Freund, and they are a husband and wife writing duo, which I find absolutely delightful.
Yeah.
I've actually read a few Tiffany Roberts stories before, had no idea though that it was a husband and wife writing team. So I find that super cute. And this is the second book in their Aliens Among Us series. I have not read any of the other books in this particular series, but after reading this one, I am absolutely going to.
I am curious about these aliens among us.
Oh my gosh, me too. You and me both. Well, let me go ahead and share the Goodreads synopsis for this book, and then we will dive into our discussion, because y'all, there is so much to love about this romance. Like, it might just be because I finished it this morning before recording, but I am so freaking excited to talk about this book
Yeah.
because it just made me so happy. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Here is the synopsis for Claimed by the Alien Bodyguard. Gabriela Romero is a single mother struggling to make ends meet. With Christmas fast approaching, she's lost work, she's late on rent, and the zeros in her bank account are on the wrong side of the decimal point. Fortunately, she has a couple bright spots in her life. Her amazing daughter, Anna, and her brief interactions with her gorgeous neighbor from across the street, Mason Lee. He's big, strong, kind, and he's great with Anna. Plus, he looks at Gabriela like he wants to devour her. How could a man like him be real? When he finally asks her out and an unexpected job comes her way, it seems Gabriela's luck is finally turning around until the universe decides to give her a reality check and disaster strikes. In Gabriela's most desperate moments, Mason rushes to the rescue. But her savior isn't what he seems. He's a 7-foot-tall alien with horns and glowing violet eyes. Did she run into the arms of an otherworldly demon, or will this unusual being save Christmas and claim Gabriela's heart in the process?
Aww.
It's the latter option, just so everybody knows.
I will say, as being terrible at math and having a podcast called Too Stupid to Live, I was like, wrong side of the decimal point. And I had to think about that for a second. I was like, okay. Oh, okay, got it. Yeah.
I love a book that makes you think, especially in the synopsis.
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. What was that?
Yeah.
And it's such a clever thing to say. But I was like, yeah.
The wrong side. Like the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah.
Which side?
Yeah.
No, I really like this. I adored this book. I mean, Becky and I both gave this a 5-star rating on Goodreads.
Yeah.
Because it's so funny considering that there's no mention of like holidays in the title or like judging by, the cover of the book, that there would be so much holiday love and familial love and celebration, and also be really sexy like in this book. Like this, I try not to judge a book by its cover or its title, but I for sure did with this one.
I did too. Like I feel like, because I'm so interested in like the way books are marketed, like
yes,
I feel like, if you wanted the Christmas loving audience or readership to get this, like maybe there should have been a colon of like Claimed by the Alien Bodyguard, a Christmas novella or something. You know what I mean? Just like to let people know that, because like I do think like, same, if I were to read this, I wouldn't expect it to be a Christmas novella, but people want to read Christmas novellas. So I think like maybe having that extra detail could like help gain more readership with the book.
Even just in terms of like search engine optimization, like not to sound like too social media marketing manager here, but it's like just like the fact that it doesn't have Christmas or anything having to do with holidays in the title, or like you said, like a subheading. I just feel like if you're searching for holiday novellas or Christmas novellas or novels, it wouldn't necessarily be one that would come up, and that makes me upset because this is one of my favorite Boobsmas reads, like not just for this season, but across the seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I adored this book. I think it has really a lot of the things I'm looking for in like a quote unquote holiday romance.
Yeah.
Like
Aliens.
my definition. Yeah, Alien, obviously, top of the list.
Right.
But no, we've got family, and that's not to say that you can't have a holiday romance without family. However, when I talk about family, I also include found family. I also include romantic partners as our family. Like I think you can define family as however you want to define family. But for me, you have a single mother who, kind of reminds you that a lot of us take the holidays for granted, that we really, there's a moment where near the end, she's given a gift by Mason or whatever his real alien name is. I'm just gonna
call him Mason because Mason
I'm gonna stick with Mason.
It's such a hot name, and that I was like bummed that like he's like, oh, actually my name's Broxton, but I was like,
my name's like Broxo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But we're gonna stick with Mason
Mm-hmm.
for consistency's sake. But when he gives her like presents at the end, like during Christmas morning, and she actually has some mention of like, I hadn't gotten like a present since I was a
Yeah.
child, like
Mm-hmm.
at Christmas. I was like, oh my God. Like, and even then, you see her trying to do literally anything she can to make Christmas special for her daughter. Like, even if that's just, she wants to buy her one present.
Mm-hmm.
She wants them to bake cookies together because that's become one of their traditions. I adored her, and I felt so bad, but it's very humbling. Like, it's a very humbling read because you're just like, "Oh my gosh, this really makes you appreciate what you
It
have
does,
and
yeah. And it makes you,
really
yeah, it makes
love
it
it."
makes you realize, like, I thought this was a great book because there are so many families who are in that situation around
Yes.
the holidays, and it's like, is the holidays for us? And I just like, I really, again, I'm from a world of privilege, so I don't really know the struggle, but like, I just really appreciated a book showing that
Yeah.
perspective and just how you maintain hope and you still find
Yeah.
celebration even in these circumstances that are serious, that are really, like, honestly, like, big struggles, and yeah.
And that there are still good people. Like, there's still, that was another thing. I was like, oh, this is a nice reminder that with as much shit as we've got going on in the world today, and this book came out in 2020,
Hmm.
that there's still good people that, especially around the holidays, are willing to lend a helping hand. I
Yeah.
mean,
Hmm.
our main character has her fucking house burn
Which is
down
again, like, and I read the author's note, and it was like, this happened, to us,
in
or
real
or to
life.
our
Yeah.
family, and it's so fucking tragic. And that's like, and I feel like in sometimes romance novels, like, I mean, I read suspense, so it's like so and so's house blew
Right.
up in an awesome explosion, and it's like, but then the tragedy of that isn't really mentioned, because it's like, well, we're on the run and
Right.
we're gonna have hot sex, and it's like, you can be like, it's worthy of grieving. It's a mournful
Yeah.
thing to have happen.
To lose literally everything, you and your daughter have
Yeah.
built together, because she is a single mom through and through. There's no mention of really, her ex isn't in the picture. So I
Hmm.
know that sometimes when there's like a single parent romance, there's always like the added danger element of like fighting for custody,
Yeah.
or this
Yeah.
person comes back into your life. No, she's very much a single. She is the only parent
Hmm.
to her daughter. And but no, to really lose everything that you guys have amassed together, whether that's photo memories or physical things. I mean, it's really sad. And then to couple that with it being the holiday
Hmm.
season is even worse. But no, I really love the way Mason, I mean, and granted, he's an alien, so we kind of have not exactly the fated mates trope, but like very much him seeing her and like internally claiming her
Yeah.
as his, like before they even get together. Although I do love that before he takes her in after the fire burns down her house, I love that he actually does ask her out. Like, he
Oh,
asks her
yeah.
to like go get cocoa, and he's
Hmm.
so awkward doing it, but like it also felt very real. Like, I was like, I know he's an alien, but this might be the most accurate depiction of asking somebody out I've ever
Oh,
seen.
yeah. And it's so funny because, like, a few things to that, like, I've related to him, like, you kind of, like, as the book goes on, you kind of learn how much of a fish out of water he is. Like, it sometimes feels like he
Yeah.
gets, like, more and more naive as the book goes on, as opposed to, like,
Mhm.
something like the only reference I have is, like, Crocodile Dundee, where they learn more and more as the movie goes on. Um,
Nope. He doesn't know snowball fights. He
no,
doesn't know the movie The
like,
Terminator.
permits and all that stuff, and it's so funny because, he has been living on Earth for a year, which I'm like, "That's kinda interesting." Like, I mean, I've never, whatever, like,
Mhm.
it is kind of interesting, but what I really appreciated is how realistic it is when you go shopping for someone and you don't know. Like, how many gifts, like, go Hanukkah shopping, and we do get presents for each other every year, that's a thing that we do just because whatever, everyone else is giving each other presents, and it's like, this year I, was like, okay, what's this? like, I have all those same angst that he had of like, what's the spending limit? How much is too much? How much is too little?
Yeah.
Like, what would this person like? And so when he was at the mall, like kind of having a half nervous breakdown, I was like, okay, yeah, I relate to this alien who's only been on Earth for a year. Quite a bit.
Yeah, mine is always because I happen to love buying presents for people. Like I
You're
really
a good gift
love.
giver. I just want to say you are a great gift
Thank you.
giver. It's one of like
I
your
really
amazing
do.
qualities.
It's like, you know, when you talk about like your 5 love languages, like for me, I do have the love language of gifts.
Yeah.
However, it's giving gifts.
Right.
It's not necessarily getting them because honestly, I think that I don't mean to sound like a brag, but it's like I do know that I give really good gifts.
No,
so it's like I don't necessarily expect to get like the same level of gift giving in return, and that's okay.
So much better, dude. That makes me feel
No. I don't. And then but the thing that I always struggle with in my head is like, okay, do I get somebody something that they want, something that they need, or just something that I think is like a physical representation of them, you know, something that they'll enjoy. Like it's because some people very much do. My dad, for example, he loves Christmas. He loves everything Christmas. He likes to buy things that you need. Right. Like, ooh, you need a new set of sheets. I'm on it.
And that's so considerate, you know, like it's like, yeah, I love it.
But there are different kinds of shoppers, you know, and some people shop for what somebody needs. Some people shop for things that they want. I don't think either is wrong, but I don't think either is 100% right either. Okay. And some people shop for just things they're like, hey, I know this person likes chickens. I'm going to buy them stuff with chickens on it. Do they need it? Probably not. Do they want it? Maybe they don't know they want it.
But it's like very heartfelt.
Will they like it?
Of course they will. It's like so heartfelt, you know, and yeah.
Just a fun thing to think about is what kind of shopper am I?
Yeah.
So I'm an enjoyment shopper for the most part, and I usually leave the things that people need to dad because I know
you have that. Yeah.
He'll take care of it. So combined forces,
Love
you know.
Love
but
it.
Mason is all of the above. Like he buys them the clothes that they need because they've literally lost everything. But he buys them toys because he's like, oh, I want to get her, you know, something to play with. I want to, you know, when in the end, he does buy Gabriela an engagement ring. And I was like, okay, that's cute. Like we saw him perusing the jewelry. We knew that it was something that crossed his mind. But for me, the extra step was the fact that he buys a necklace for the daughter, Anna, that has a unicorn on it because she loves unicorns because she's a 9-year-old girl. And he asks her, like, can I be your dad? Like, it's basically like a proposal to her. And that for me was like the winning
That was my
moment,
favorite.
the crowning achievement.
That was my favorite part of the book, especially, and I mean, I know we're getting to the end, but like there was something so beautiful about him asking the daughter first if I can be your dad before you know Gabrielle, before Gabby. And there was just like it was because like he just recognized how affected and this is just her life would be so affected, and him just being aware of like Gabby's life is the daughter's life, and you know the daughter's life is Gabby's life, and just knowing that like you know the daughter's life is going to affect. I don't know. I just thought that was.
I'm with
so
you.
Beautiful.
He might not know what a snowball fight is. He might not know that you need a permit to chop down a tree.
Yeah, or that you just can't chop down trees. Yeah, in a forest. Yeah,
but he does. But in spite of all that, in spite of not being human or like you know knowing what the customs are in the human world, he still can recognize like basic needs and like emotions, which I'm like, that's really hot. Like that's really sexy. Is like somebody who's like, look, I don't maybe understand what kind of music you like, or I haven't watched the same movies as you.
Like, I don't understand mashed potatoes, but
oh my God, I literally highlighted the passage about mashed potatoes.
That was so great.
I do understand that this is, I want to be with you.
Yeah.
And your daughter is a part of that.
Exactly.
And you're not going to be with me if I don't also love your daughter and put her first.
Yeah, her needs are
and
first.
he
Yeah.
does.
And that's what's so great about it, is because like the kids, for me, like I write, like my day job is like writing on kids TV shows, and I'm always like, I always like have this, like lately I've been having this thing of like, kids need to feel loved, they need to feel accepted.
Oh.
And so like when I see stuff like that, it just like, I'm like, yes, that's exactly it. Every kid needs to, like, at the end of the day, they need to feel loved, you know? And I was just like, yes.
You're so precious, Auntie
I know.
Becky.
It's like this like weird thing of like, not that I didn't have love growing up, but a lot of kids, you know, like, or whatever. And I think that like their presence and their television, their books, like need to show that they're worthy.
Well, and the way we raise kids changes. And I mean, obviously we are two single childless.
Oh yeah. And I have like, I have zero authority to speak on this. 100%. Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of discussion, you know, just about sort of like, well, how were you raised? Like latchkey kid? You know, I mean, growing up in like the 90s is very different than growing up in the 60s and growing up in the 2020s. Is that what we're calling it? The 20s again? Like 20s part 2?
Maybe it's the 20s. Let's just call it the 20s.
So no, but it was a great reminder and a great sort of like modern peek at a family, a blended family, really. I mean, because he's from an alien planet and she's from Colombia. So, I mean, this is just being in Idaho, first of all, which I was like, what a shift to being.
Yeah, what a place. Yeah.
I don't know how you got to Idaho.
I hear Idaho's beautiful. I've never been in it, but I've heard that it's like a very beautiful state. So I
live by it now.
Right.
So I'm like, I guess I'll hop on over. And I'm pretty sure the authors are either based in Idaho or from Idaho. And so no shade to Idaho, but it's just funny for me to imagine somebody like immigrating from Colombia, not to Idaho, because I think they mentioned that her family lives in Arizona.
Right,
and so I assumed that's where she had moved to. Makes a lot more sense. But then to go to Idaho just felt
so funny.
so random.
Yeah.
Now, the important question, though, is who's going to share the passage about mashed potatoes?
Oh,
because
that's you.
I do think it needs to be shared.
I have highlighted the tail sex scene. Like, that was the one I wanted to read.
Oh,
if you don't
absolutely.
mind.
I did too.
Oh,
I did
okay.
too.
I don't want to, but like, I don't want to.
No. You can, if you're giving me mashed potatoes, I can give you tail sex.
Thank you.
And honestly, I did highlight several parts of that. But no, this book is also very funny.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because of the fish out of water experience. I will say, and this was something I didn't really realize about myself until reading this book, is it's actually very prose heavy, like as opposed to dialogue. Like I feel like one of the things I love about romance novels in general, and this coming from somebody who's also a script writer, is that I love dialogue. I love to read dialogue. I love to write dialogue, and romance is usually dialogue heavy. And that's not to say there isn't dialogue in the story, but there's a lot of time when either Gabriela or Mason are on their own.
There's a lot of alone time. Yeah. Where they're just thinking.
Thinking. And so there were times where I'd be like, oh my God, like, is anybody going to say anything? And really that's just personal preference. Like, and it's not to say that what they were thinking about wasn't, you know, fair. Like, I mean, I liked that it was there because it gave a lot of background, especially to Mason's character, to kind of give us his experience of like what he does understand and what he does know based on his time being here. And some of my favorite moments were from his thoughts. And one of them was when he's making a frozen TV dinner.
Yeah. And like, just him like being like using the micro, like it's all those little details of like, I guess you wouldn't have a microwave on a different place. You know what I mean? Like it was just so great.
Right. But let me just share this small passage. This is not sexy by any means,
it's important.
But this is just.
I
had several highlights.
Like it could be.
It could be. Yeah. No, I mean, I highlighted a ton of stuff in this book that either made me chuckle or I was like, oh, okay, this is the context I needed.
Yeah.
I also want to mention like sort of what his like physical appearance is as well. But Yeah, but so here's something he says about mashed potatoes. He's talking about while he's thinking about this while he's making his frozen dinner. So it starts with, on any other evening, Broxton, aka Mason, just so everybody's clear, might have pondered the nature of mashed potatoes. They were an oddity to him. Humans seem to largely consider mashed foods suitable only for infants, but potatoes were an exception, so much so that every frozen meal he'd seen that was marketed towards males with appetites contained mashed potatoes. Why did mashed potatoes possess some masculine quality that made it acceptable for adult males to eat them when any other pulped food was only for babies?
I mean, I get that. And the thing is that if I were him, that would be all I would think about. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, why is the political climate so weird? Blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, what the fuck is up with mashed potatoes?
We've grown up with mashed potatoes, especially being like something that always accompanies meat. And it always is like a holiday dish. And I mean, bitch loves mashed potatoes.
It's delicious.
Love them. But it's so funny to have that outside perspective on that specific topic. So kudos to Tiffany Roberts for making that a choice, because I loved it.
Yeah, yeah. And like he also had like other like really important thoughts too, of like, why do humans hide their sexuality? Like why
for sure.
And it's like, okay, that's important. But seriously, the mashed potatoes thing, like that drives me nuts.
Yeah, there were a couple other things like he reads a lot of books, and he specifically reads a lot of romance,
was great.
And he mentions like how problematic some of like the older Joanna
I
Lindsay
loved
books
that.
were.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like because it was like one of those things. Like I love like when there's books that are like secret love letters to romance readers, and it's like, oh yeah, that's good. It's like wink, yeah.
I liked that. I'm trying to think if there was another one. The other thing that I really liked was, you know, anytime I'm reading an alien romance, monster romance, anything in the paranormal or fantasy sphere, I love to see how the rules are created. Like, what do people look like?
Yeah.
What can they do? What are their abilities? And so what I liked about him was that he matches the description that we see on the cover of the book. He has red skin, he has fangs, he has claws, he has horns, black hair to about his shoulders, but there is this like holographic projection.
Yeah, where he looks human. He
can look human. Yeah, and I thought, I was like, oh, that's cool, because of course the first thing I'm thinking when I read about the fact that this man lives in Idaho is, whoa, I think there's certain parts of Idaho that would not be okay with people wearing booty shorts. And here we have a man who's red with fangs and horns. How's that going to go over? Well, science.
I mean, to be fair, there are a lot of celebrities who have like houses in Idaho, you know, and
Montana and Wyoming.
And it would be like, I feel like it'd be weirder to see Demi Moore than an alien.
Yeah, no, that's and the other thing I loved is like, if somebody has like a specific ability or a specific trait about them in a romance, like not just a romance, I mean just things in general, I'm like, if you felt so compelled to specify what this person looks like, and they have this scar or this extra ability, you better damn well use that in the
promise
book.
The premise.
Otherwise,
promise the premise.
Yeah. It just bothers me. And so we have when Anna gets trapped in the burning house, he breaks the window with his horns. Yeah. When we have something as simple as him making a TV dinner, he pokes the plastic covering with his fucking claws.
Why not? It's there, dude.
That one line, I was like, this might be my favorite line in the entire book, is the fact that he pokes open a TV dinner with his claws to ventilate. And just so much thought put into it, as opposed to just like he picks up a fork.
And like, I also like think it's really important to talk about his tail in terms of like the tail, it comes up in a sex scene that's super hot, but what they mention is that he can't hide his tail, and so he wraps it around his leg within his pants. And to me, like, I felt so bad for him that he had to constrict his body that way, because like it is not, this isn't the equivalent of at all, but like, you know, when you like wear Spanx to a wedding to like fit, and like how uncomfortable that is, where you have to like,
Yep.
you know, even like a strapless bra that's like too tight, like it's so uncomfortable, and you're like kind of like cranky all night, and I'm just like, he has to do this all the time.
All
I felt
day, every day.
and I felt his
like,
pain, and I was like, you poor man, you poor alien man.
The moment when he actually, because he reveals his true self, true form to the two girls, the woman and her daughter, when he's fighting off a mountain lion, you know, as you do.
Sure.
And but then that's more of like, it just happens because he's protecting them.
He's in another zone. Like he's like, I can't think about the hologram right now. I gotta save my mate and her daughter.
But then there's a moment like a few chapters later where he's already kind of like had a conversation with Gabriela about like who he is and where he's from and everything. Because she's like, I'm going to need to know more.
She's like, okay.
Fair enough.
She was like, it's question time. Like,
like I have some question, but keeps it calm. I will say, like, she doesn't lose her shit. He's very respectful and answers all her questions. And then there is a moment where he just kind of, they're in his house. They're, I think, decorating for Christmas, and he just lets down his holographic shield, and everybody just kind of looks at each other like, good, yeah, great. Like, and I'm just like, I love this. I love that he finally has at least a couple people that he can be himself with.
Yeah, and just like, again, like I'm thinking that tail, he can just let that tail get some air, man. Like I'm just,
oh yeah, that tail. Yeah. Oh, let's talk about that tail and all the things that tail can do, because I wasn't expecting butt stuff, but let me tell you, anytime butt stuff comes up,
it's very exciting.
Happy.
Yeah, because it's like, I've read a lot of alien romances with tails, and it's like they don't come into play sexually, and I was like so excited that this was, because he does like mention like, hey baby, my tail can do other stuff too, and she's like, ooh, and then like, and then to like have a scene of it, because you know how like sometimes like they'll mention like a sexy thing will be mentioned, and then you don't
actually
you don't, it doesn't follow through, but to have this follow through, I was just like, that is just good writing there. You know what I mean?
And we got some good variety. We get to see that like the first time they hook up, he uses his tail to basically like hold her leg and like spread it a little more. I'm like, great, love it. Like, honestly, I would have been satisfied with just that, because again, promise to premise. You're using it. You're using it to your abilities.
Exactly.
But then Tiffany Roberts took it a step further and decided, well, hell, I will say I am having trouble kind of picturing the tail itself, and just sort of like what it looks like and what it feels like, because he does use it to, you know, enter her anally. And I was like, ooh, okay. I'm just kind of trying to figure out like what this like feels like, because I think of tails as like hairy, and I'm like, not necessarily something I want in my butt. And, you know, if it's more of just like a really long butt plug, like, okay.
Yeah,
but
I kind of saw it as like a devil's tail, like it was like red with like that little arrow thing on the end.
And it has like a thing at the end.
And I was like, probably the arrow part would be painful. But like, I just, you know, when you like read something and your brain keeps going there, even though you're like, you don't like it, you know, it's just like your automatic
you
thing.
Went devil tail. I went like cat tail. I mean, something in between, maybe with a little less fur, but no, I did really like that. And I will say, I know we both have passages.
Should I read it?
To share. Well, I do just want to say that one of the other lines that I almost threw my phone because I was laughing so fucking hard is at the very end when he proposes to her, and her response is not just yes or I love you. It is, with a laugh, she lowered her lips to his ear. You were in my butt. Of course I'm saying yes.
Oh my God, that was so funny. Like, I was just like, what? Like, it was like, I was like, oh shit.
Died.
Like, that's that's the, like, it's not like, oh, you're beautiful, you're so great with my daughter, or like, oh, when I look
You
at
were
you,
in
I
my
I see the rest of our
butt.
lives. It's like, no, your tail penetrated my butt, and
Yeah.
that's the test of true love.
I've died and you're now hearing the ghost of Kelly.
Yeah,
Like
that
it
was
was
that made me laugh.
so funny. It
Yeah.
was so funny.
Mhm.
I could not stop laughing. It's very ridiculous. However, I adore it. It's my kind of ridiculous. Like,
Yeah,
let me tell you,
yeah.
my humor rating is going to be high on this one, even
Mhm.
though we have somebody whose house burns down, even though
Right,
we
yeah.
have, and I will take those things into account. That being said, there's so much playfulness. There's so much
Yeah. 'Cause, like,
hilarity between the three of them.
Right, because I think, like, what the what the authors remember is that this is an Alien Bodyguard romance, and there's, like, a
Yes!
certain tone you need to maintain, even with, like, the greatest of tragedies that's so awful. There's still, like, you need to, like, recognize this, like, high concept, like, I don't wanna say campy because I don't even know what that word means, but, like, just, like, kind of,
I
like,
get what you're
just,
saying,
like,
though.
this, like, level of bonkersness that needs to be
Yes, it
maintained in a
should be
romance.
some bonkers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to read like, as much as I harp on this podcast about reading realistic romance and
Mhm.
reading relationships that are great representations for relationships we want to have in our own lives, I am not sitting down to read an alien romance expecting reality.
Yeah, no
Like,
one
I
is.
mean,
Yeah.
this is about as realistic as like a lot of alien romances get because it takes place on Earth in
Mhm.
Idaho,
Yeah,
of all
exactly. Yeah, and I
places.
was like, "This is clever," like, but, like, Idaho still needs to be, like, as like, the environment still needs to be as crazy as, like,
Yeah,
Berlexicon or whatever, like, alien
yeah.
planets
And
exist.
so, mission accomplished. But okay, I want to hear your sexcerpt because I
Okay.
know we both chose the same scene where he does penetrate her with his tail.
Mhm.
I highlighted a couple passages in
Yeah.
this scene, so maybe we'll share two passages from the
Okay.
same scene.
Yeah.
But you go
I mean, mine
first.
might be a little long, but
Maybe you took care of both sections I chose in one.
okay. Well, if I did, you should read it again. Okay. Or just tell me to shut up when I'm getting to your place. Okay.
No,
So
no, no,
she's
no.
like mounting him, and they're having lovely sex, and okay.
Christmas morning
Chris
sex
Oh
too,
yeah.
just so everybody
Yeah, she's getting
knows.
that gift Christmas morning. She's getting a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then she felt something else nudge her. The tip of his tail. It slipped between them, dragging along her pussy, where their bodies were connected, coating itself with her essence. A possessive but devilish light gleamed in Broxton's eyes. "You're mine, Gabriela," he grunted, without slowing his pace. His grip on her ash cheeks shifted, and he spread them. "All of you." His tail trailed up from her pussy, and its tip pressed against the tight ring of her backside. Gabriella gasped, her eyes flaring wide. She never, ever had anyone touch her there before. It was foreign. It was taboo. It was thrilling.
That's that second part starting with his tail trailed up from her pussy. That was one of mine for sure.
Okay. Did you have another one? Because, like, if you.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's a great one as well. In fact, I highlighted like the next
Oh,
paragraph of
perfect.
that too
Okay.
because it's so good. But the other one I had, I think, is from just a couple pages before that, and it's where the whole morning sex starts because she wakes up, she's like, I'm gonna go down on him because
Yeah,
like
I'm gonna.
he's still
Yeah.
asleep. I
Mhm.
love a good like wake him up with a blowjob moment.
Sure.
Huge
Yeah.
fan.
Mhm.
And so she does, but then she starts to like want to also touch herself, which is how the tail comes into play. And I'm like, how handy that you have this
I was jealous.
available
I
to
was
you.
so jealous
Oh,
because it's like it is a lot of work. Like it is
yes.
a lot of multitasking, and I was like, "Oh, you're so lucky."
I don't want to think that hard.
Yeah, it's
So,
just like I want to focus, but I also like need to have my yeah, I get it.
right. So I selected a section from there. So this is kind of like to back it up a little bit,
Yeah.
where we're getting started with the tale. I'll start from here. Gabriella parted her thighs, withdrawing her hand from his sack and slipping it between her legs as she continued to suck his cock. She slowly circled her clit with the tip of her finger. His nostrils flared with a deep inhalation, and he grinned. He reached up and brushed a finger over her sensitive nipple. Does my mate seek relief? Before he'd even given her time to respond, she felt something brush her thighs. An instant later, his tail probed her sex, pushing into her. Gabriela gasped. Though the tip of his tail wasn't as thick as his cock, it was more than enough to make her shudder with pleasure. He pumped it in and out of her, and she knew it wouldn't be long before she peaked.
Ooh. I just I said, at one point. I'm like, yeah.
And you know what I will say too, I can see where some people might, and I think this is something that people have a lot of issues with like the fated mates trope in general, especially when you're talking about an alien or some sort of like shifter animal hybrid. He calls her female and he calls her mate. And I was okay with it, especially because the reason I was okay with it is that Gabriela is okay with it. Like
exactly. Yeah.
She acknowledges it. She's like, I never really thought I'd be okay with like somebody calling me like female, like, yeah, female, that good. But it's cool when I'm with him. And I'm like, great. That is all I needed to know to make me feel okay.
Yeah, I think that's like so essential with kind of this kind of stuff of like, I mean, I know, again, everyone's different. Everyone has their own whatever, things they love, things they hate. But like, yeah, like when you have just like enthusiastic consent for a woman to be like, okay, I accept this culture of yours. Great.
Right.
It just makes reading the rest of the book so much easier.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? Normally, I feel like I would be against a proposal after so short a time.
I didn't fucking care at all. I was like, yep.
But again, I'm like, he's a different man from a different planet.
Exactly.
There's a mate trope happening here. There's definitely, even though we see them get together within the span of like a week or so, we also know that they've been very attracted to each other for a while. So I was okay with it. I honestly would have been fine if he hadn't proposed to her and he had only given the daughter the necklace and like asked her to be his daughter. That would have been fine for me as well.
Yeah.
But I completely understand like wrapping it up. I think you said it first that I'm glad he basically proposes to the daughter first and asks to be her daddy. But no, not in a dirty way. That was not the time for that.
No, but like the thing is that I can't hear the word daddy anymore without
I know
thinking of like, what is it, like dominant dad little girl tropes or something where like, oh God.
It's true. And I'm Romance Landia, man. I'm just like, you've ruined my brain.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
So dirty. Well, let's wrap up and give this book a few grades, shall we? And you've been here before, but as my rating scale is always changing, I honestly couldn't even tell you what it was at this time last year. So we are going to be rating for heart, humor, heat, and of course, holidays on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the very best that it could possibly be. So let's start with heart. What do you think?
Heart, I would give it I'm going to give it an 8. Yeah. I did have a little bit of a problem with the daughter in that she was too sweet, and I don't believe kids.
She was a Hallmark kid.
She was a Hallmark kid, and I
sure.
feel like if she was like a little more, and this is totally me and being like hating that she was such a good kid and I was such a bad kid, but like there was room for her to be a little more of a jerk, of like a brat, and then when she does say something like very warm and sweet, like that moment could be way more touching than her just saying the right thing.
It would show growth.
Exactly. Yeah.
It would show character growth. Like, and I like the fact that she's so appreciative of the fact that her mom does so much for her and that she recognizes the fact that they don't have everything. Like, I do like that. However, I'm also with you where she could have had something, like maybe even just to be a little more cautious of this guy being interested in her mom. Like, I don't know. I'm with you though. I could have Hallmark, she was a very Hallmark
Yeah,
child
and she
where I'm
could,
just
like
like,
yeah.
come on.
Yeah, like, she could sound more like a kid, and I think kids are sometimes blissfully unaware of the financial
Yeah.
situation, and it's just, like, she could have been a little more of a shit and, like but still been a good kid.
She fully recognized the fact that like, she'd be like, is he your boyfriend? Or
Yeah.
like, ooh, you guys are like touching tongues. I'm like, sometimes she sounded like she was like a teenager
She
to
was
me, and sometimes she sounded like she was like 8.
Yeah, she
So
was the most
it was kind of like a
mature.
weird.
Yeah, like, when kids are more
Yes.
mature than the parents, I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
"Uh."
I am not a fan of like the precocious child
Yeah.
character. It doesn't work
Yeah,
for me.
same,
But
yeah.
she wasn't fully on that level, but not as much. I didn't put it this way. I did not enjoy her as much as I enjoyed the child in The Lights on Knockbridge Lane,
Right.
which was one of our other
Okay.
Boobsmas reads. Loved that kid. I actually really enjoyed that kid. This one, I was middle of the road.
Yeah.
I could, I'm with you though. I would have maybe wanted a little bit more. I gave it a 9 though for heart, because I just really do love the relationship between mother and daughter.
Yeah.
I love that there's a relationship developed not only between Mason and Gabriela, but also Mason and Gabriela's daughter. Like, I love that he's taking the initiative to get to know her. So I respect that. How about humor?
I mean, 10, and if I could, a 13. You know what I mean? Like, humor just, like, out of the park, like, no criticism there.
I can't do a full 10 just because, like, her house burns down
know,
and, like, she's broke and
know.
everything. So, but that being said, it would for sure, on my personal humor rating, I feel like it would be, like, a 9.
Okay, you're right, yeah.
For it being like the books that I've read for the podcast and recommended as high humor before, I don't know if it's exactly there. It would probably be more of like a 7 or 8.
Right, yeah.
But personally, I found it hilarious.
Yeah, I just think, and I consider ridiculousness a part of humor.
Yes.
So, like, that's why I give it, like, and I'm ridiculous in a good way, not like
potatoes.
Yeah. I mean,
so good.
Yeah.
So good. How about the Heat?
Heat, I would say I'm gonna give it an 8. I wanted more sex. I feel like sex came way too late. Like, I feel like their first kiss
It was a long wait.
It was a really long wait, especially for a novella. And I felt their horniness for each other, but like, sorry, I wanted that sex sooner.
I don't even know if I would call it a novella because it was
longer. It was longer, yeah,
than I expected it to be. I want to say, at least on my Kindle read, it was like 280 pages.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I do see what you mean in that. I'm like, it is shorter, and it was a long wait to get to like some sort of steaminess. And then when we do get there, we do get several scenes, which is wonderful.
Yeah,
but it was a long wait. I think I'm gonna give it maybe an 8 and 8.5.
Yeah.
Just because the minute you bring in like some butt stuff or toys or something, I'm like, okay, well, this is elevating it for sure.
Yeah, something out of the realm of like, what does this word mean? But traditional vanilla sex, Yeah.
Exactly. And then finally, the holiday ranking. I mean, they decorate his horns with tinsel, and. This one, I think, will be fairly high for me just because I'm thinking about all the things they do. They make a snowman. They do snowball fights. He goes holiday shopping. They actually have a scene on Christmas morning of, like, opening presents, not to mention some morning sex. And so there really is, at least in my view, a lot of holiday crap.
Sure. Yeah. So much holiday crap. It's craptastic in terms of holiday.
Craptastic.
Yeah. What rating do you give it? Like 10 out of 10?
If it's not a 10, no, you know what? I am going to give it a 10. This is, I think, one of my ideal holiday romance picks because I don't think it beats you over the head with the holidays. Like, I feel like there was so much holiday stuff in it. However, I feel like there could have been a lot more.
Okay,
and sometimes I feel like, as much as I think more is more when it comes to Christmas, this was kind of this was very well suited to my taste when it came to holiday stuff. Like they're celebrating, they're doing lots of fun holiday activities, but they also go home and like sit on the couch and watch a movie. Like they don't have to go from one gingerbread baking contest to the next.
Yeah.
You know?
Like I totally get what you're saying. Like I feel like I like stories that like could be a love story without the holiday happening. You know, like this could easily
Yes.
like whatever, and it's not just like, oh no, the Christmas Town Santa Festival is gonna blow up if we don't like get together or something.
Whoa,
you know,
that's the romantic suspense
exactly.
version.
Yeah. It's very suspenseful. I mean, I give it a 9 out of 10. I'm so sorry to the writers, but like I do want to take away a point for not including the fact that it was a Christmas novel in the title, or at least in the marketing.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's probably my one major complaint about this book is just that I want this book to reach so many people. And to be fair, I know that there are a lot of Tiffany Roberts fans, especially since they came out with a like spider monster romance this past October, which is fantastic. However, I don't think this is going to be on a lot of people's radars if they're not already familiar with the Alien series that this is a part of, because this is not out in the world as like a holiday romance if you're not already a Tiffany Roberts fan.
And this is a holiday romance. Like I know we were talking about how like kind of Christmas was more in the background of it, but it is still a very like big part of the plot. And I think that if you're into holiday romance, this book is for you. But just how would have I'm going to get this right. How have you would known that?
How would you have known that?
I just think in terms of like, and I'm not a big, again, I don't do marketing, but I'm not whatever. But I just think in terms of like how you get readers to read your books in terms of romance, it could have been better titled.
Well, maybe this holiday season, Tiffany Roberts, who by the way I didn't mention, but they've been sweet enough to provide a paperback copy to today's giveaway winner. So at the time this episode drops, I'm pretty sure that giveaway winner will have already been announced.
Absolutely.
But we will get this book into the hands of at least one more person. But maybe Tiffany Roberts will go and add on a
honestly
Christmas novella to their book on
and it's like the easiest change, and it's like the one thing I took it's like you don't need to change the story, you literally just need to change the title in like the Amazon.
If that's our biggest complaint about the book,
is that there isn't like the biggest complaint is that there's no subtitle. And like how nitpicky is that? That's the most nitpicky thing. So that I think that goes to show you how great the book is. It's the subtitle.
It really, really is. I mean, if you want to throw like a Santa hat on him as well on the cover, but totally fine.
I disagree.
Do we need it?
Gonna cover those horns, like unless it's like a small Santa, unless each horn has a little.
Put the tinsel on his horns.
Yeah, but don't. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, having read this, I am very interested in checking out the rest of the series. I also am like, Tiffany Roberts, I need more holiday romance from you, whether it's Alien or not, like, because I found this so funny, so loving, so tender, also very hot. Yeah. So I'm a fan. I'm a convert. I am here for more and all Tiffany Roberts books in the future.
Yeah.
So
yeah. There's so many things.
Hopefully there will be.
Yeah. This book was wonderful.
Plenty more to come.
There's so many wonderful things about this book. Yeah.
Well, it has been wonderful once again sharing the microphone with you.
I love it.
We used to do this in the same city,
I
and
know.
Here we are miles and miles apart at this point, but podcasting pals for life.
Oh my God, 100%. You're the best. and you know, and everyone knows it. And
you're the best. Stop it.
I mean,
you're the best.
No, but like seriously, this is always a treat, whether we record or not. You know, I just love hanging out with you.
Oh my gosh, no, it's so true. And I mean, if nothing else, we for sure have the next year's 8th day of Boobsmas because we're consistent.
Yeah. Oh my God. So my middle name is Kate, so I think it should be Becky Kate on 8. I'm
It sounds like a reality show about all the eight children that you'll be raising.
Yeah, I do have 8 children. And we celebrate Hanukkah one night for each.
8 crazy
eight crazy kids, and each kid gets one night of Hanukkah.
There's your Hanukkah romance right there.
That's it. I'm a single mom with 8 kids.
Yeah, celebrating Hanukkah.
Celebrating all 8.
One kid per night.
One kid per night.
Well, there you go. Something that you can work on in 2022.
Yeah.
And I'll work on my realistic, grumpy holiday romance, and we will have lots to share then 1 year from now.
Yeah, guys, hold us accountable. Anyone listening, hold us accountable.
Where can everybody find and follow you, Becky?
Okay, yeah. So it's tstlpodcast.com, and Too Stupid to Live is on, your various podcast platforms. Just, write in Too Stupid to Live, and either it will come up, or, news stories about Florida people will come up, but just,
It's one or the other.
Maybe it's one or the other. I don't put a Google alert if your podcast is called Too Stupid to Live. You'll get the worst updates.
Fair enough.
You'll get the worst news stories.
You knew what you were doing when you chose the title.
I really was, because I love being depressed about how dumb people can be. But Too Stupid to Live on your various podcast platforms.
Fantastic. Well, and be sure to listen to, Becky's Hanukkah episode, which by the time this episode is out is probably already, live in the world. So check that out.
Yeah, unless any unforeseen circumstances happen. But yes,
we're going to hope no on that.
I know, but but I'm just saying, because this record got delayed a few times. So I'm just like,
Got it.
Superstitious, if you will.
Okay.
But yes, it should be
Fingers
out.
crossed. Menorah's lit.
Yeah.
It will be there.
It will be there. Yeah.
And in the meantime, we've still got a few days left of Boobsmas, so stay tuned for that. And without further ado, I guess there's nothing else for us to do but say, on the 8th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 8 rock hard abs. Ooh, baby. And a tail.
Yummy. And a tail.
On the 8th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 8 rock hard abs, 7 minutes in heaven, 6 billionaires, 5 penis rings, 4 dukes of fucking, 3 butt plugs, 2 nipple clips, and a heart hooked up underneath the tree.
Thanks so much for listening. Boobies and Newbies is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts.